Hello, this is Dale Matthews, and welcome to Inside News. Tonight we have Mike Jones, Catherine Austin, and Laurie Johansen.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, so we're going, and we also have in absentia. Sounds like something that you drink. That's like from the 20s.
Yeah.
Shane Kristen. Shane Kristen was there Friday night. That's Kristen, by the way, just so that you know. He was there Friday night at the candidates forum that was put on by Inside News. And at the beginning of each show, we give each candidate a chance to speak without comment from us. Here is Shane Kristen.
Good evening. My name is Shane Kristen. I live in Williams. First came to Oregon in '69 as a crazy teenager. Had a lot of fun over in Ashland. I lived in Tacoma in 71 and 72. Saw some interesting things out there. I've been in Williams for 9 years. Have a small farm there, raise sheep. I have a medical garden. I'm also on the board of directors of the Oregon Sun-Grown Growers Guild. We were formed to stand up for small family farms and patient rights. I've been heavily involved in cannabis politics for 2 years, speaking at the State House, city governments, county governments. I was just speaking with Carl Wilson yesterday, and it surprised me that he said that they only get $22K a year. He said I made the right choice to run for this election. That kind of bothered me. You know, I have been a government employee. I am a government retiree. I understand governments. I understand how they move money around in departments. Most of them are on a fiscal year. That fiscal year is coming up, the end in June. In the next couple of months, you'll see departments that have money that will start spending it. They'll buy furniture, they'll buy bookshelves, they'll buy anything they can justify to keep the same amount allocated for them the next year. Now, there's a lot that needs to be done, but I believe things need to be done before this election takes place. It's my understanding that it only takes 30 registered voters to ask that a county or city be audited. Now that would be a step for the people to take to stop their purse strings from wasting any more money at the present time before you hear the rest of us tell you why we'd be of good service to you. That's something the people can do. I'm all for looking for constructive ideas that cause no harm or as little as possible. I think that if they were audited and that they managed to figure out how much they needed per department per month with possibly a 10% slush, there'd be plenty of money to hire a few more officers to protect us. That could be done now. You don't have to wait for us to be elected. Again, my name is Shane Kristen. I think at this present time, I only want one term. I already have PERS, you know. I already have Social Security, you know. I think that there are so many people dissatisfied. I'm one of them. It's why I put my name in the hat. I have always believed that public service should come from an unbiased position with no self-interest involved. And as you all know, we have not been privy to that. I'm not going to bash any of these other candidates because some of them I don't know, some of them I do casually, some of them I've met along the political stream. This is going to be fun. Let's do the best job we can and represent the people. Thank you.
All right. Hang on a second, Shane. Any questions for Shane?
Bravo.
So what do you think of the feasibility of the local cannabis growers pooling resources to try to increase security, say, in Cave Junction? Is that feasible?
I think if you had a town meeting and asked that question directly to them, if they wanted to start a private service, you might be working toward an avenue for an answer. I can't answer that for you. It's going to take the people here. You specifically said Cave Junction. If you connect with them, they may be able to help. But it was brought up. Why would they? They might, you know. We're all people. We all need to take care of each other in some form or fashion, you know.
There's good arguments against it. I think people need to.
Yes.
Okay, one more.
Love your shirt.
Thank you.
Okay, my question I have for you is in many counties, and I own property and have family in 3 counties in the state. Many counties right now, some of the county commissioners are trying to get rid of the videotaping of their live sessions. If you were the county commissioner, would you make sure that there was complete transparency and the people in this county here would be able to see the meetings in real time and be able to know what's actually going on within their county commissioners, including the question and answer period that usually county commissioners allow at the end? Videotaping, please, and live, real time.
I don't think we should give the people another reason to mistrust the government. So I would keep filming and do my best to be transparent.
Excellent. Thank you. Shane Kristen.
When I came into the county commissioners meeting on Thursday, they were sitting, talking. I watched them do it, sitting and talking in a quorum before they started the meeting about county business. This is one of the reasons why they tried to stop me from recording until they said, okay, you can start recording, because I kept catching them breaking the law. And this is why Cheryl Walker tried to come up with a rule, and Keith Heck also tried to come up with a rule that I'd have to stop as soon as they said the meeting is over. I don't do that. I start as soon as there's a quorum, and I stay in the room until the quorum is broken. So our first guest this evening is Catherine Austin. Catherine Austin wrote a letter to the Illinois Valley News, of which Dan Mancuso is the editor. It was a letter to the editor. Catherine joins us via telephone, and we have the text of her letter, because you won't be able to see her. And Mike, do you have anything else to say, or should she just jump straight in and start talking?
She can dive right in.
Okay. Go ahead, Catherine, and tell us all about this letter, please. She's going to read it aloud. The most interesting thing on television is somebody reading something aloud to you. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah. I will wait till the end, and then I'll tell you what Dan's response was. Okay. Drinking the Kool-Aid for tyranny. Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive, for it would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep, his stupidity may at some point be satiated, but those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience. C.S. Lewis. In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. George Orwell. And that government is best which governs least. Henry David Thoreau from Civil Disobedience. The previous 3 quotes are apropos for the times in which we are living. We are headed down this track with a steam locomotive fired at full tilt. The frogs are being boiled alive with no longer an ability to sense what is happening to them. Unfathomable lies are swallowed as truth. Surely no one could tell a lie that big and have the government back them? Think again. The old Hegelian dialectic. Problem, reaction, and predetermined solution has not stopped working. False flags are right under the public's nose, and many, it sadly appears, wouldn't know if it bit their nose right off their face. There was a Meet the Candidates forum at the Cave Junction County Building on the evening of March 18th, with 13 of the 18 candidates running for the 2 commissioner positions giving 5-minute statements, followed by an opportunity for the public to freely ask questions. If anyone would like to view the entirety of it, it's available at backcounty.com. Previously, at the encouragement of other candidates, Dale Matthews wrote a letter to the governor of Oregon asking that the governor not intervene in Josephine County under a declared state of emergency, which 14 of the 18 candidates signed, including all of the most likely to be elected. Under a state of emergency, the sovereignty of our county and the entrusted duty of our local county officials would be forfeited to the state. I read with grave concern the 2 front-page bias articles of the past 2 weeks by writer Judy Hoyle regarding Cheryl Walker's desired state of emergency. There are many crucial facts that were overlooked in these articles. As a county citizen who has been paying close attention to county business this past year, I know we deserve better. 2/3 of the land in Josephine County is under federal control. The ONC Act, along with the newer Secure Rural Schools Act, were to be compensation to our county, largely for law enforcement. The federal government has not upheld its obligations, which more than 775 rural counties are dependent on, and this issue is far from over. But instead of rectifying or redressing this with the federal government, our commissioners want the county citizens to pay the tab through levy taxation. Josephine County has voted down 10 taxation levies in the past 15 years. Sadly, the county commissioners see no other way to get the money that they want, that which will far exceed what the sheriff needs, than through a substantial increase in property taxes. There is an agenda at work here. The elephant in the room is a huge, underfunded, exceedingly costly public employees retirement system, PERS. To get at this kind of pork, the county commissioners need to raise taxes big time. When taxes are generated, 10% goes to administration, then about 22% to PERS before the county departments. House Bill 3453, Chapter 753, the state of emergency, is a foot in the door to get what they want, since the county residents have not voted the way that the commissioners want. This short-term fix for 18 months will simply set the stage for House Joint Resolution 21. There is no such thing as free money, and we will be indebted to the state. HJR 21 will make it possible for the entire state of Oregon to impose a statewide minimum property tax of $2 for all counties, including ours. Currently, 13 of 36 counties in Oregon are paying less than $2. This will be a fatal burden for many residents that are living on low or fixed incomes. Property taxes will start out at 3.5 times what they currently are. While many complain about crime and homelessness, they do not consider this implication. Our sheriff is being starved on purpose to create an emergency. While funds have been available to pass through to the sheriff, the commissioners have consistently not done so. Money from timber revenues, road funds, and most recently a canceled contract for $675,000 for unnecessary water testing, that's a whole other topic, could have been passed through but have not. Their actions do not reflect an emergency, but rather some other agenda. There are many creative solutions for generating adequate funding for the sheriff, but they are not being discussed. A financially responsible business would have acted accordingly. Commissioner Cheryl Walker will not be reelected as she has dropped out of the race. This puts us in a dangerous position with her, being a lame duck, but possibly more like an injured dog. She is more likely to carry out the desires of her cronies. We must be vigilant this year. She is the driving force behind going to the governor. When I asked her recently at a Board of Commissioners meeting about having our contract deputy in Cave Junction out here at night, she responded that the crime isn't all happening during the night and that we could have 2 deputies during the day. Go figure, right? The government is not God, nor should we expect it to solve our problems. It is in itself a problem that we need to keep in close check as its employer. The commissioners are public servants entrusted to do the will of the voters. The voters have spoken consistently. The voters who have supported the levies and who are complaining right now should, for starters, put their money where their mouth is and write their checks to the sheriff anyway. without holding a gun to everyone else's head to do so. After that, we should all be far more involved with local politics where we still have the ability to make a difference. Additionally, I reviewed footage of a Lipstick local public safety coordinating committee meeting posted on Inside News with Dale Matthews that took place on Friday. I saw Sheriff Dave Daniel, Grants Pass Police Chief Bill Landis, Legal Counsel Wally Hicks, District Attorney Ryan Mulkins, Commissioner Keith Heck, Corrections Officer Lily Morgan, Judge Lindy Baker, among others present. No one present was able to define what is a minimal level needed for public safety, but everyone voted unanimously that they felt there was a physical emergency, something short of being responsible, in my opinion.
Okay. So, Catherine, there are many people who watch this show who agree with most, if not all, of your sentiments. And so where's the controversy? It's a letter to the editor.
When I sent it in to Dan, he responded back to me that it was not printable as it sits. Those were his words. When I inquired further, he said his issues were with my mentioning of candidates and the candidates forum, and that he did not want to promote anybody in his paper. He felt that I was doing some kind of promotional thing in my letter. I didn't think that was the case at all, but I essentially deleted the part about the candidate forum, the candidates signing a letter to the governor, and the reference to Dale Matthews. I did say Inside News, though, with the footage from the lipstick. I think that might have slipped in, but basically he didn't want any mention of Dale Matthews or any alternative medias or the candidates forum, because I believe Dan is doing his own candidates forum, and that's the only way.
I don't know what his objection is. We mention the Ivy News all the time.
That's right. Yes, we do.
I think you guys do too good of a job, though.
And we're not being paid. So maybe that's part of the problem.
Well, and also our advertisers can't nick stories, as he told me that they do there. So his problem is he doesn't want you in your letter to make any references to a candidates forum that was put on by Inside News. He doesn't want any reference to badcounty.com. He sure doesn't want any references to Dale Matthews. He just, and didn't he also object? You told me he also objected to you in a letter to the editor criticizing an article that was written by one of his reporters, right? What?
Yes, he asked me to change that. I said that Judy Hoyle's articles were biased, and I just needed to say that there's more information. He didn't like, because he didn't feel that they were biased, because he felt that she was covering what Cheryl Walker had said. And I said, but that's only one side of the story. And he said that it wasn't her job to be questioning the story, but just report what Cheryl Walker was saying.
Brother, okay. So something similar to this is not about me, but something similar to this happened to me with the Daily Courier, as I had submitted a letter quite a while back talking about how Rogue Valley Television, the people who used to run the cameras and did a better job running the cameras, they were putting commercials, infomercials to be exact, on our county television station and pocketing the money. And so I wrote a letter to the editor saying, hey, they're running infomercials. The editor at the Courier cut out the word infomercials without asking me, changed it to programs. So here I am complaining, oh, RVTV is running programs. Well, yes, that's what they're paid to do. He didn't ask me. He didn't. It just suddenly was there. Did you know that they could do that? At letters to the editor, they can just change it any way they want to? Really?
I would think then they should be liable for still having your name on it, but changing what you're saying. I mean, that seems like a liability to me.
Well, so you are going to you're going to give in a little bit. You still want the message to get out.
I did resubmit another letter, which he verbally approved, and I just did exactly what we just spoke about. That I removed all the references to Bad County, Dale Matthews, and the candidates forum, and the letter to the governor signed by the candidates.
So, Mike, all that work that you did is not. He doesn't want anybody to know what a great job was done at the Inside News candidates.
I don't care. Listen, everybody's going to know about it anyway.
Well, they know now.
Yep.
That's nice. Well, Dan, you got your way. You've got, in fact, a lot of publicity. Hooray for you. Well, any further reflections, Catherine, before we say a fond farewell to you?
No, I thank you for letting me read my letter on your show, and I'll speak with you guys shortly or soon.
Right, and keep watching the show and just keep all that money flowing into us.
Yeah, right.
All right.
See you later,
Thanks,
Catherine. Bye-bye.
Good night. Yeah, good night, Mike.
Good night. So, I know Mike says to me all the time, well, this is like Facebook. The editor can do what he wants to at his newspaper. Yes, he can.
Yeah, he can.
And as long as he's happy with being mentioned for the things that he does, why, terrific. I'm happy to be here to help review the local media, and I hope that Dan's happy with all the happy publicity that he's getting from this act, which to me is absolutely repugnant and just one of the... I'm personally offended by so-called journalists who act like they are being unbiased. We don't. We play back somebody like Alan Ayer, let him have his say all the way through. That's the news part. And then we have somebody like Laurie Johansen without a muted microphone come on and talk about what it was that this guy had just said. And so, Mike, do you have anything more to say? Because we're going to play Alan Ayer at a previous weekly business session.
Yeah, let's see what we're talking about here.
Okay, so Alan Ayer has been around in relating to county government for quite a long time, and also city government as well. And this is a very good representation of who Alan Ayer is and the kinds of things he has to say. This is vintage Alan Ayer.
My name is Alan Ayer. That's Alan Ayer, EHR, in case somebody wants to know. I'm a little concerned. When I come in, I heard somebody talking about, well, this water sample. I came to the county commissioners in earnest because several things. There was a story written in the sneak preview this week, beginning of the week, over the weekend, came out. Defamation of character is not even touching the page of this. Now, you people have known me for years. Many people in this community. I've been working on this for over 20 years. My credentials as a backup to first responders, as a hazmat technician, an inspector, risk assessor, and project design. My credentials all speak for themselves because of EPA level, DEQ level, and the state of Oregon Health Division level. Now, I was doing the problem out here at the Fielder Dam, and I brought it to the attention of the county. Of course, I moved kind of swiftly considering they were supposed to follow protocol to remove the dams and didn't. The whole problem that I had, and they say, well, all the departments in the state were brought on board and they knew. One bad part is one of the very people that knew other issues, Nielsen Laboratories, that does the testing for the city and all over the state, in the windrow of well over $35 million that they make a year, volunteered just recently to do the testing free. Conflict of interest, guys, they're also the ones that tested behind the dam and the sediments. And after they got done cleaning up, I went in and scraped some of those sediments, and I sent them out to accredited labs, 4 outside the state of Oregon, all accredited, federally accredited laboratories. What my concern is, for somebody to say in the county that we're not responsible, and I understand the money pinch. I'll tell you right now, if I had millions of dollars, I'd be the first one to give you $6 million just to get it right. And I don't have that kind of money. I'm not Social Security. It's not being boastful to say that. What my point is, when somebody says that it wasn't worthwhile to test, not only did I prove the sediments, for number 1, red arsenic, mercury, the actually PCB oil, and uranium Now, people think, well, what's the deal with uranium? Radon in your house, and we're strong, rich in radon. The highest level uranium mining group in the United States is in Lakeview, Oregon, just across from where this incident happened where somebody was shot. The ironic part of that was I said what I did. I've done it on research for a lot of years. My research goes back over 200 years in documentation through the Department of Bilgami and all the rest of it. You folks all know what I bring, and if you don't, I've showed my credentials at least 3 dozen times. They're EPA level, all of them, and I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. My biggest concern is to say that it wasn't worthwhile to test when the arsenic was there, the sample that was taken that helped you guys make a decision about thinking this wasn't a good idea. Just the bottom line, last sentence. Michigan, Flint, Michigan, with the lead poisoning, I'm one of the highest credentialed people in the state of Oregon for lead. I am an assessor, risk assessment, project design, and inspector. Most importantly, the slew of stuff we had behind the dam. When they said in the paper, well, we uncovered a ton of, we saved the county a ton of money. The bottom line is, the sediment behind the dam was 16,000 tons. And a lot of it's still there. It's actually eroded 92 feet from the very home where the dam sat for over 100 years. Bottom line, it is a problem. They should have never stopped trying to sample because that little bit of thought is 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and it is proven solid. It's documented, and my credentials are EPA level. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and sorry that I went over. People need to know that you guys were headed in the right direction.
Now, Mike, do you happen to notice that Cheryl Walker didn't cut him off in mid-sentence at 3 minutes?
Yeah, I did notice that. And I wonder, what is EPA level? Right.
Well,
maybe
Laurie Johansen is with us here. I caught several things that he said when I went, what? He sent it out to 4 labs ahead of time, and they all verified that he was right? Laurie, you can take these in any order that you like.
Well, he said a lot of things that there are problems with. Where to start? First off, earlier this week, Tony Webb sent him a message asking if he could provide these credentials to her so that she could post them for everybody, since she's sort of like an independent third party there. And it's been crickets. There hasn't been any sign of anything coming out of these supposed credentials. It kind of gets worse than that. About a year ago, I actually had a fairly long conversation with Oregon State Police Trooper Josh Nugent. He's based in the Central Point office there, and he was quite familiar with Mr. Eyre. He had been following the case. He was involved from the start when Mr. Eyre's been making these claims about EPA level credentials for many years. In fact, Alan Eyre was in fact arrested for criminal impersonation relating to that back in 2005.
Wait. Just a second, Laurie. Now, one of the things that we're going to do on this show, as everybody knows, is Alan did get his full time to explain, and we didn't interrupt him. And I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but you're live on our show. And you've agreed to identify anything that you have to say that is your supposition, and to be able to back up anything that you say with documentation or with eyewitness testimony that you're about to say. And it will only meant there were 5 people that were involved in this. One of them was Alan Eyre, another one was Joseph Rice, another one was Diane Hoover, the health department, another one was Cheryl Walker, and one more person that was pushing for this was obviously Eric Schaafsma. So I'm going to make a personal request of you. That's the last time that some of those people will be mentioned. But you go ahead and tell us your story, and then I'll try not to interrupt you again.
Okay. Yeah, anyway, Josh Nugent told me a great deal of the details about it. Anyone who wants to confirm it can just call him up and speak with him at the Central Point office. I also went to the EPA website that make it very easy for you to look up any of their personnel. They don't hide them. All you have to do is put in a name and search it up. He's not in the EPA website. He is equally not in the DEQ website, if anyone wants to go look there. Furthermore, I was provided a list from the state of Oregon that gives all of the lead inspectors, project planners, risk assessors, everything that has anything to do with lead accreditation in the state of Oregon. He's not on that list. So when he says that he's one of the highest credentialed people in the state of Oregon for lead, and then he listed all these different categories of lead that he's supposedly qualified for, I can provide anyone who wants that list. And you can go through it, search up EHR, and it doesn't. There's no one on there with that name. It's not true. And you know, people may say, oh well, it's harmless if he's just out saying that he has EPA level credentials. I'm not sure exactly what EPA level means. That's kind of a squishy term. But you know, it looked like it's sort of a victimless crime. It's like, oh well, he's out there saying these things. Well, the reality is that he went with Joseph Rice to Diane Hoover and convinced her, who in turn convinced the commissioners to go ahead with that thing that almost cost the county hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's not exactly a victimless crime to be claiming that you're a lead inspector when you're not, claiming that you've got EPA level and DEQ level credentials when there aren't any. If you look at the Daily Courier back in, it's a little bit after 2005, I think it's 2007 maybe, they interviewed him because he was running for commissioner back then. And they asked what his credentials were then. And at least what's published in the Daily Courier there says that he had a GED and some tech school certificates. And that's all he mentions. He doesn't claim there he has any DEQ or EPA or any bachelor's degree even in anything. So, you know, it's troubling that, you know, nobody has really found out that he didn't have any of these credentials before they committed all this money from the county to this whole idea. And there's still people out there, even today, on Facebook who are still claiming that there is, you know, still arsenic and all these other things in there. You know, red arsenic, uranium, lead, PCB oil. I mean, we ran the tests. The Oregon State toxicologist looked at the data and said there's nothing bad here. It's not a problem. We have all the testing that was done by Water Watch and River Design beforehand. We have all those pieces of information saying nothing. I personally went out with help to places, and you know, all of the relevant places, including right just below the dam, when all the sediment was coming down there and was being washed out, and we tested it. We took it to Nielsen, which is in fact the most highly accredited lab in the southern part of Oregon, and we got no arsenic in our results, and we've made our data public. I do not see Alan Ayer bringing forth any of this data. I mean, he says he has it, all this results and so on. Nobody's seen it. Furthermore, nobody knows, even if he did have some data that showed these strange things. I mean, how is PCB oil going to get behind a dam there? That's pretty weird. Even if he had positive results, we still have to ask where he got the sample from, because he's getting totally different results. If you look at it, we have my results, the state toxicologist analysis results, Water Watch and Geos Institute's results, and they're all saying everything's fine. You know, even the Daily Courier, you know, is saying that there's no dangerous contaminants found in Evans Creek. I don't know how much more proof people need. That would seem to be complete.
Yeah, I agree with that. It is bothersome that somebody can walk in there and say these things and not be challenged on it at all. And this is not the first time. You know, the only other thing that I know of that he was involved in was the chromium-6 scare, where he was talking about there was chromium-6 in the river, and I believe that was you know, behind the situation with the removal of Savage Rapids Dam. And so you know, I mean, either we tested for that during that time and found that he was right, or that he was wrong. But if they did find out that he was wrong, why would they then fall for this again? And you know, give this guy credibility that you know, he doesn't have any paper to back up. It's odd.
And let me jump in here for a second also. I come up, Mike comes up, Laurie has come up, other people have come up to the microphone at the weekly business session and said things for which they have proof. We have videotape. And you saw the reaction we got from all three commissioners at one time or another. Simon here cut off the microphone rather than let me play back the audio tape that showed that he had not been telling the truth. Cheryl Walker has just introduced stuff which comes out of absolutely nowhere. And Keith Hecht said that Mike and I had doctored the videotape. So even when you do have videotape, you're going to have somebody that's going to say you're a big fat liar. This is a little bit different, though. When people come up and they say, when Raymond Smith or when Bill Hunker come up and they say, we've got these numbers and we can prove it, and we're willing to show people that, and we've already put it on our show for the 3 days in a row or whatever, that's a little bit different than somebody coming up and saying, well, I've got all these laboratory tests. Okay, where are they? Laurie?
Well, and not only that, to listen to what we have to say about a particular thing, that doesn't cost the county $77,000 and potentially $600,000. So we are talking about a different thing. It isn't a victimless crime. We're all the victim. Anyone who pays property taxes in this county is a victim of that stupidity.
Yeah, there's actually a lot more victims than you might think. I'd like to point out that we took all of our data and posted it. Vic Nakudian posted it at americaspeakout.com so that anyone who wanted to look at it could, and they can to this very day. But other victims of this situation or crime are, you know, people who own property here who have the property values perhaps drop. What about all the commerce? I mean, we've got a lot of people who come here in order to enjoy the fresh water, going fishing and recreating and so on. What kind of a pall does that put over the whole area? If the, you know, people think that there's arsenic in the water and so on, and that they can't eat the fish. I mean, even today at Facebook, Joseph Brock is saying, I'm not going to eat any of the fish out of the Rogue. He's still pushing that even today. So, and then there's people who might want to relocate here. They probably won't do that. That'll affect the property values. But I think the cruelest part is, on previous occasions, you got videotape of Alan Air talking about how children are dying of cancer because of things in the water. In that case, I think it was chromium.
Yes, that's right.
And so, what are parents going to do if can they afford to buy bottled water? Are they going to be worrying, you know, that they're going to die or their children are going to die of arsenic poisoning because of cancer?
Yeah, really.
It's cruel.
I can see them in Walmart reading the pure water filter label to see if it removes chromium-6. You know.
And one other thing that has come up is that Cheryl Walker had said, again, why she would say this, I don't know. I mean, it was a rare glimpse into truth from the dais, but she had said, well, you know, this $135,000 a year for 5 years, this could go to the sheriff's department. There's another victim. The sheriff's department, we don't know where that money came from. The guy from well, where did it come from? I said, I don't know. Do you know? Because he's paid.
Yeah, but you could only say you could only say that somebody's a victim if they were actually going to get the money. The sheriff's department was never going to get the money.
Oh, well, that's a good point. Good point, Mike Jones. That's right. Theoretically speaking. And by the way, whatever happened to all that money? We don't know. Nobody knows. So,
well, we do know now. They paid $77,000 to this guy and
for 1 month of work.
Yeah, what a great deal for him.
And it had some outrageous things in the bill. I mean, I went through it in detail. And, for example, just shipping a small bottle of water, probably up to Portland, but, you know, even if it was across the country, you know, a little sample bottle of water, $425.
Oh, man.
And,
yeah, we need a toilet
it's worse
seat
than that.
in the summer also, yeah.
It's worse than that. There were several bottles. They were all sampled on the same day. They should have all been shipped in the same box, you would think.
Of course.
So it came out to 12,000 something just for the shipping.
No, no, oh,
Good
no,
Lord.
say that again, please. That's the first time I've heard that one. Tell us that again slowly. Real
Okay.
slow.
Okay, and I'll tell you in a way that you can find it and prove it to yourself. Over at the county website, on the left side, there's a thing that says Field or Dam. You click on that, and it'll take you to a huge PDF. And if you go through it, eventually you'll find a part there where there's a bill that's submitted from the Grants Pass Water Lab to the county, and it's itemized. There's a number of weird things in there, but the weirdest, most obvious thing that makes me go, what, is that each of several bottles was charged $425 for shipping charge. Each of them also had a $500 professional fee, which I'm informed by people in the field they don't do. I mean, that just doesn't happen. So
$1,000 per bottle, approximately.
well, not per bottle. There were several bottles, and the bottles, you add them up, it was over $1,200 just for the shipping, and then there's $500 per bottle each for professional services. I mean,
professional services. Could you imagine for us, Laurie, what those professional services, what sort of handling might have been involved in that $500 charge?
Well, I'm not expert in that, but I took it to Kim Ramsey and showed it to her, and she said that is not something you normally do. Oh, Kim Ramsey is the vice president of Nielsen Research Corporation, so I figured she would know what's reasonable and customary for charges relating to water sampling, you know, because that's what they do. And we were all scratching our heads over what professional services was, because it wasn't a conventional charge. I mean, normally that's not in there. And, you know, I mean, the shipping is pretty obvious. If I were a commissioner looking at that, I would have said, okay, can I see the receipt from the UPS that correlates with that shipping charge? Because I would be amazed to see it, you know, if they could produce that. Nobody seemed to be giving a darn as to whether these charges were legitimate or not. I mean, they didn't look at the details. I would think that would have been a very reasonable thing to question.
I would hope
they would like us to trust them with their money. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I would just hope that at some, you know, in the future, this experience with Grants Pass Water Lab would affect the business that the county and or city is doing with them in the future. You know, because I think if you're intellectually honest, you can look at charges like that and understand on their face that they're exorbitant. That's just my thinking on it.
Well, they could have asked for justification, like, okay, where's the backup for this? The receipts from the UPS or FedEx or whatever. At the very least, they could have done that.
Well, in the future, if things are handled correctly in May and then again in November, it will be the end of that kind of thing. Yes, in the future, this is a very important time that we're going through in this county. And you've seen again and again and again and again how the current Board of County Commissioners handles this. There wasn't going to be a big hoopla about this until we videotaped that in the little back room and put it on our show. And then suddenly all kinds of people were showing up and asking all kinds of questions, and then Laurie got involved and Vic got involved, and then there was the citizens that were bringing things forward on on their own dime and proving that, and the thing that we've already paid for again and again and again, $1 million total of salaries with the county, and we can't get any good decisions out of these guys. Citizens come forward and do it. They immediately stopped what they were doing. They dropped it all, and then we kept bringing up, well, you've already cut the check. What do you mean you've already cut the check? You've already cut the check? And even Simon Hare was saying, wait a minute, we haven't even seen any of the results yet. Well, you wouldn't understand the results, says Cheryl Walker. And now we suddenly find out, kind of quietly, not quite secretly, but almost, because we expose it, oh, it's been paid. Really? There you go. And Mike would say, but that's not news. But we don't like it.
It isn't really news, and that's a that's a sad thing. I'm hoping that, because we are planning on electing different people, whether that ends up coming to pass or not is another story. But we hope that, this would be very, very unfortunate, and I realize that the way the government apparatus is set up, it doesn't really allow you to do really radical things because they have it pinned down. It's like Gulliver on the beach with a whole bunch of ropes on him to keep
Nice
them
analogy.
from doing anything too effective. But we hope that there's enough effect that people will see that and appreciate it and continue to elect that type of leadership, because we're in a bad way here.
Well, watch and see what's gearing up in this election, and especially in November. You get a couple of people in there that are outraged by this kind of thing. That includes our entire audience, with a couple of exceptions of the bad guys watching and trying to keep track of what we're talking about. They're going to come out in force with a bunch of money to stop any reformers from getting into these positions. Are you kidding me? Just the Illinois Valley Community Development Organization by itself, and the IV News, and people who are waiting with their hand out, as Dandy, well, people got their hand out. Oh, we know who has their hand out. These are the people who are given these sweetheart contracts and then do these things, even though people say, we don't want you to do this, they do it anyway. All of those people, their gravy train looks like it might be derailed. And so they have to protect the generations of gifts that have been given to them. They're going to, because they know the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to say, did you pay back your loan? Have you created 99 full-time family wage jobs from putting a plaque on a rock? All those things are going to stop, and they don't want those things to stop. What, are you crazy? And so this is not the battle. The big battle is coming if they think that the spigot's going to be turned off, buddy.
Yeah, they almost were able to slip that whole water thing past us because they did it in that private session, and if it wasn't for you being there with your camera, faithfully, doggedly covering those guys, they would have slipped it right past us. Because we had no way of knowing it was coming at us at all. I mean, I would have been involved earlier if I'd even known they were discussing it.
Right. This is very interesting that she says this, because she's right about that. If there wasn't somebody there and making an issue of this video, we quite likely would not know, because they would be operating in the background from here to the end of the contract, and the only thing that we would see is maybe it might be a business item when the checks needed to be signed every few months or once a year or whatever. And that's and it may well be that Arthur O'Hare would have done that in finance without us even knowing, because it was already an agreed upon contract.
And that's what happened at one of the latest meetings, where they had somebody from the IV come in and talk about, oh, do I really have to pay back the loan? Why, I'd like to do favors for local government instead of paying back the loan. And then they decided that they would have to close and lock the door rather than have that appear on camera. And I said, well, does that mean that you're going to be doing this as a quorum of commissioners? That's none of your business. That's none of my business. That's why we don't answer your questions, Mr. Matthews. That's why they don't answer your questions either, everybody. Because that's who they are. Now, who was sitting there that was silent to that and agreeing with that? Simon Hare, Cheryl Walker, Keith Heck, Wally Hicks, our county legal counsel.
Mm-hmm.
We have no protection except for this camera. That's the only protection you now have.
Mm-hmm. Something I was told was that when counties are putting out a big contract and it's supposed to be open bidding, the lame bidding on this thing is another whole story, which I don't know if we should cover that again, but supposedly these things are supposed to be published in the newspaper of record, saying, putting out for bid, and this was such a huge amount of money, you'd think they would do that. But I went and searched the Daily Courier, page through that whole that month, and I could not find anything about them publishing it. I mean, what kind of a crazy county is this that they don't have to publish bids like I believe other counties do?
I tell you what, it's a bad county. It's a bad county, Mike.
Oh, come on.
Someone should start a website.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for coming on, Laurie. We did give him a chance to say his thing. We gave you your chance to say your thing. We had a good time with it, even though I'm not very happy with the way things are turning out. The really ominous thing, in my opinion, that's on the horizon is more and more and more. They're closing down. They're closing the door. They're locking the door. They're even laughing about it. They're laughing about it. I really don't like that. And they're keeping things as secret as possible. And Wally Hicks, who was elected to keep us legal and safe, is part of it.
Yep, sad but true.
Sad. Sad, sad.